Welcome to I'm a Survivor of Domestic Violence, Inc., the podcast that empowers and uplifts the voices of survivors. I'm your co host, Michelle, and in today's episode, we're diving deep into the vital role that the community's support systems play in the recovery journey of domestic violence survivors. From local organizations to grassroots initiatives, these support networks are often the lifeline that helps survivors rebuild their lives.
That's right, Michelle. Community support is essential when it comes to healing after trauma. In this episode, we'll be hearing from survivors, community leaders, and experts who understand the importance of connection, safety, and empowerment. We'll explore how organizations offer both immediate help and long term resources to those in need. So, whether you're a survivor, a supporter, or simply someone who wants to make a difference, today's conversation is for you.
Thank you, Sean. Let's get started. And remember, no one has to walk this journey alone. Hello, and welcome to I'm a Survivor of Domestic Violence, Inc. podcast series.
Hello, and welcome to I'm a Survivor of Domestic Violence, Inc. podcast series.
So, can you introduce yourself? Because I know you told us the pronunciation of your name, but you have some East Coasters here. So, we just want to make sure we get the proper pronunciation.
Well, thank you for having me here. And Agape Garcia is the correct pronunciation.
Great. And why is domestic violence awareness important to you?
Well, it is extremely important to me. Number one, I'm a survivor of a double attempted homicide at 8 months pregnant. And secondly, just bringing the awareness to anybody and everybody, period, is extremely important because the more you bring the awareness, the more people are saying, oh my gosh, I have been a part of that, or I've been exposed to domestic violence and I would like some resources or help. And that is what's most important to me, is that people leave that stigma behind and really understand that the statistics are what they are. And there's so many of us that have experienced it. And building a community of support and empowerment is really the next level of moving forward and leveling up coping.
Absolutely. And before we get anywhere near our questions, we would like to hear a little bit about your story, because I kind of wanted to jump out of my chair when I heard that. Thank God you're here. Thank God you're a survivor.
Well, yes, thank you. I don't know how many lives I have left, but yes, surviving the double attempted homicide, like I said, was close to 20 years ago. I was actually 1,000 miles away from home. I had just left friends, family, school, work, everything to start, a new family. And about 45 days after my arrival, while I was unpacking my belongings to settle in, I found items that didn't belong to me. They actually belonged to another woman. And when I asked about them, I was accused of going through their personal belongings. So when I repeated the question, I wasn't even able to finish my repeated question before I was on the floor. And he was straddling my 8-month pregnant belly while having his left hand around my neck, pinning me down, and his right hand closed fist punching me over and over to my head. So it was my 8-year-old daughter who woke up to that scuffle. And when I heard her scared little voice at the top of the stairs, it rang very loud in my ears, and the adrenaline took over. And I was able to slam my feet on the ground and thrust my hips towards the ceiling so he would roll off of me. And I jumped up, and by the time I ran around the couch, my daughter was taking that last step off that stair. I grabbed her hand and we ran out of the door barefoot in pajamas.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you never turned back after that. Like, you got out right then.
Well, yes and no. So I was 8 months pregnant. I had just left, where we were from, Chicago to be exact. And so being over 1,000 miles away and being 8 months pregnant, I had nowhere to go. I didn't know anybody. I had no friends, no family where we moved to. And I was high risk. So I couldn't even go back home if I wanted to. He did go to jail that night because I did call the police. Those 20 minutes that the police took felt like a whole day. I just was sobbing in complete devastation. And I testified, I followed through. So did I return to the relationship? No. Was I able to go back home? No. I did not have a job. Like I said, no friends, no family. So I really needed to rely on resources that were available where I was at. And for anybody who's gone through domestic violence and sought out resources, they're not easy to come by. Stand in line, wait your turn, see where you are on the list, and, kind of hope that you get called or that they see you as important or your situation as important enough to get you the immediate needs. And that's where a lot of my journey of understanding comes into play as it relates to available resources. So that's where I have the nonprofit, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yes. Yes. So, well, why don't we just get into it? Tell us about your nonprofit.
Okay. Well, actually, the nonprofit was born from the ICU because about 3 years ago, I was in a near fatal car accident and I had a 1% chance of surviving. And while I was laying in ICU, unable to move, I was asking, my creator, why did you feel that my life was worth sparing? What was I worth saving for? What am I supposed to be doing? And I had gone through such an incredible journey in survival and understanding self-sabotage by being extremely independent based on not trusting anyone, that I got to experience a walk of post-traumatic growth, PTG. I did suffer from PTSD for a very long time, but I got to the point where I was finally walking in that post-traumatic growth. And it came to me that I needed to share my story, that I needed to let people know that they're not by themselves, and that I wanted to fill gaps based on the lack of resources that I'm personally aware of. So when I was able to get out of the hospital rehab and get, back under a roof, I started right away on all of the research that I was doing from the hospital, even though I couldn't move my legs or much of my arm, my torso. I was able to hold the phone up above my head like this because I was in a neck brace and everything. And I just saved a lot of the links and read a bunch of material and just saved so much so that when it was time to execute, I had a lot of information and I had the ability to do that. So, Confronting Domestic Violence is the name of the nonprofit, and our mission is to provide real time resources to real time victims and offer relocation services if a parent has a safe place to go, but not the means to get there.
Wow, that is great.
Wow.
Where,
Congratulations.
yeah, where are
Thank
you
you.
located?
So I am in California, and I am attending weekly meetings with, 50 or above organizations. We meet on a weekly basis. We talk about who we are, what services we provide. So we start building our own directory in the state. And when, real time victims call, I don't like saying victims, but when real time victim survivors are calling and they need real time resources, if I am unable to provide the resources that I have available, I go to that directory, go through that list, and give them 3 to 4 to 5 different phone numbers, contact names, emails. This way I know that somebody on the other line will pick up because they're being funded, they're operating, and I just saw them within the last 7 days.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
And so we're
Good
expanding.
stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I have other nonprofits and different organizations that I collaborate with in Florida, New York, Tennessee, a few other places, Texas, a few places. Yeah.
Well,
We're
now you have
we're
Las
only
Vegas.
I'm sorry?
Now you have Las Vegas. I'm in
Oh,
Las Vegas. Yes.
hey. Okay. Great.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
start collaborating.
I
That's
look
awesome.
forward to that.
Great.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, you are definitely very resourceful. I love it. I see why you said you have multiple lives like a cat here. You're doing great. So let's get right into the questions because I can see that you're going to have some great answers.
Great.
How do local organizations and community support systems contribute to the immediate safety and long term healing of survivors of domestic violence?
So when those organizations get together with other non-competitive organizations serving that same community, it becomes a full circle hub, right? So if someone is in need of shelter, if someone is in need of counseling, if someone is in need of clothing, if someone is in need of job placement or workshops, if someone is in need of relocation, if someone is in need of doctors or attorneys or understanding different judicial situations, then that's where we all become a referral and resource as a community for the community.
That's great. Uh, I love that. And it seems like, you had mentioned like 20 years ago, things were a lot different and not as many resources were available back then. But it seems like you're trying to really make sure that people are coming together from all works of the United States, and because domestic violence happens everywhere.
Yes, the domestic violence does not discriminate. It doesn't matter what your title is, how much money you have in the bank,
Mhm.
what religion you are, where you come from, what your background. It really does not discriminate. It happens to, the best and the worst of us. As it relates to what the resources were 20 years ago, I can tell you that I made more than probably 800 phone calls before I actually found an advocate. And that was only because somebody that I probably contacted maybe 3 times consistently said, you know what, I know somebody that's about 500 miles away, but they know what they know the legislative laws and they know the programs that are available and they're a solid resource. So I really am trying to eliminate those 800 calls. I'm really trying to eliminate the runaround, the go around. Um, the reason why it took me so long to get to somebody is because number one, I didn't give up. I was fighting for my life, literally. Not just that moment, but years later, I would have to say it took about 8 months before I found the advocate. And that's because I
Wow.
was just nonstop calling different places, standing in lines. And, today, it's like I mentioned earlier, there's still such a stigma out there that people really don't openly talk about it. And you're not
Mhm.
looking for resources under domestic violence until you're in that situation. And when you're in that situation, your emotional responses or your emotional thought process is not very clear because you're in that literally that survival mode. So you don't know where to look. You don't know which rock you're gonna, turn over and find something. So if I can provide, if confronting domestic violence can provide a one-stop shop, and from there have a full directory, you know how much time that eliminates and how many no's, I don't know, I can't help you, that prevents. That's my
Yeah.
goal.
It really does. With our foundation as well, similar to what you're saying, we have, the 24/7, 365 call center. We have multiple resources. We have daily, weekly, individual group sessions that we all meet and we just talk, like to talk domestic violence. We have a family dynamic session. We have accountability session. We have course and control meetings. We have couples crisis, meetings. So sometimes the couples just wake up one day and they're in crisis. And this really works for us because we get about 1,000 calls a year, and we get them from like literally WhatsApp. So we get them from all over the world, and we get them from like not just Vegas, like Arizona, Boston, Chicago. I mean, Rhode Island's pretty crazy times. I would say Atlanta. I have a presence in Atlanta. We have a couple of safe houses now. So it's getting really bad. Like domestic violence is become without a doubt an epidemic. There's no when's the last time you seen the ads or any type of awareness about domestic violence? There's none. So I'm going to be launching on Hulu. I'm very excited they partnered with us. So we're going to create the first video ad campaign for human trafficking and domestic violence incorporated in the actual campaign. So because people think and say, well, how are you going to do that? It goes very easy. In human trafficking, if you don't do this, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill your family, or kill your wife. So what are you gonna do? It's domestic violence. So you're gonna follow through. If you're a woman and there's a big man there and a couple of men making you do whatever craziness they make you do, right? If it's sex trafficking or whatever, work trafficking, it's all of that. So we're trying to incorporate to show the beginning of the ad campaign will be like a little bit of violence control, and then it's going to progress over a couple of minutes, and the next thing you know, they're being asked to do things that are unimaginable for a female, and there'll be a young boy, and it's going to be very compelling, and I'm looking forward to creating it.
I just want to say that that is amazing because as long as I have been doing research, I was totally convinced that human trafficking and domestic violence were two separate things, and no entity was willing to combine them under the same umbrella. And I will go as far as saying that after digging and digging to find out why, it's all about funding. So I
Yeah,
would
and I
love to
mean,
be. Go ahead. Sorry.
and the thing is, it's not like it's always domestic violence and human trafficking. But I mean, there's some craziness with the domestic violence, coercive control, what men do to women. I'm not saying that all women are angels, but for the most part, 70, 80% of the issues, it's all men abusing women. It's always been like that, sad to say. And my foundation, myself and Michelle were both directors. I'm the founder. She's a senior director underneath me. And basically, our goal and our mission is to let the world globally and nationally know awareness is the biggest weapon we have. Some young woman growing up, yeah, I go into grammar schools, I talk to the grammar school kids. I kind of go easy with them. I can't beat them up too bad about it. But when I get into the high school, freshman year to senior, I tell it like it is. And I go into colleges, and I find that there's so many girls that are experiencing rape, and they don't know what happened, Rufinol, whatever they're doing to these guys are doing, and they're getting away with it. They're getting away with it, and the girls don't want to talk about it because they're embarrassed. And it's happened to so many women. So that is very severe domestic violence. Rape is much worse than just domestic violence, but it all starts again, with coercive control, not having the awareness as a young woman. Mothers and fathers talk to their sons and daughters. It's very kind of superficial. You got to be careful, if you're going to start dating, blah, 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 right? We know how that goes. But you get into colleges, you've got these predators you got these predator kids, like kids that grew up into young adults that are just in there to find a woman and to either abuse them or control them. It's just, so that's my job. That's my mission. Awareness 101.
And so, Sean, are you tapping into the Violence Against Women Act Title IX to get funding to start putting this into the schools?
Absolutely. I was just so funny. I had just gotten a call last week about it, and then I talked to him. There's two actually on this call this time, and they said you gotta jump in the bandwagon with us. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So now that you're bringing it up, so I'm definitely gonna. I've been so busy getting ready for the Hulu commercial and some other stuff. So and I've been grant writing. I have a couple of grant writers, and I have probably what do I have now? Like 19 and 20, yeah, 19, 20, whatever it is, volunteers. And I have two incredible grant writers now. So I'm really trying to land some grants, and this is a good time to write. So I definitely want to know more. So we got to exchange numbers.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm on the same boat. When you're teaching sex education, you should be teaching consent as well. And as a
Exactly.
refresher in high school before going to college and becoming an adult, it should be, again. Otherwise, what are they waiting for to become, employees in the world and see it in the cafeteria hung up on a billboard with the
Right.
hourly wage requirements? I mean,
Right. And I try to mention on every episode, but sometimes I forget. But one main thing I like to mention is, I'm dealing with the Senate right now, and I have a survivor bill. And basically, long and short, it's mandatory time for, like, when you really beat up a woman, no matter if it's woman to woman, man to man, or just any type of beating. If it's man on woman and vice versa, it doesn't matter. Same sex marriages. When you hurt someone really bad, obviously black eyes, broken fingers, arms, ribs, whatever it is, right? That you automatically get a year first offense. That's if you have no priors. And then you have to do a year probation with anger management and drug and alcohol counseling, right? Because usually 90%, 92%, I figured on the stats I've pulled, it's about 92% of domestic violence is alcohol, drugs. Sometimes it's they're hungover from the night before and they have a big fight because the wife can't talk to him when he comes home drunk, so he's sobering up, and she's like, "You got to stop! I can't take this no more." And that's when he snaps, or she snaps. So my goal is, and then yeah, second offense you get 5 years, in 5 years mandatory. Like it's automatic. That's like a second offense, and third, like in the United States, you do the same criminal act, a felony, you get 20 years. It's like a life sentence. And I think that if we can get this to pass, I think people are going to really think twice about beating a woman or beating up their partners, because they're just getting away with murder, literally getting away with murder. Getting slapped in the wrist. I just read the other day that somebody got 7 years, and they said it was involuntary manslaughter or something. It was to do with the car, and he ran her over by mistake, but they were fighting. There was witnesses. We had good lawyers. He was all lawyered up, and he was kind of a pillar of the community. And it just makes me sick. The men are getting away with murder, and so a woman. Some women do some crazy stuff. Again, primarily it's the man. It's sad, but it's true. So
and I will not debate that at all because I agree. However, I do want to maybe provoke a little thought, and
sure,
because
please.
it's hitting home for me too, because when you were saying, well, let's, they should do a year or 5 years or 20 years. I mean, listen, yeah, do the time for the crime. As a survivor and going through the past 20 years that I have gone through, I'll tell you that when the cops showed up and put the handcuffs on him, he was chauffeured to a structure that had light, food, heating, a gym, a library where he could get educated, a network where he could figure out the underground ins and outs, and all these resources. Meanwhile, my lights go out. I don't have food on the table. I don't know how I'm going to heat up the place. I can't even put gas in my car. And I have a baby on the way and another kid that, I'm responsible for solely 100%. No help at the courthouse. What, a DA? What? Okay. Okay. We all know how that goes. So, when we put somebody in jail for a long time, how much does that cost versus how much, how many resources and what the needs are for the people that were abused, for the children that were victim to that abuse. It's almost like we want them, the criminals to or offenders to really pay the price. But in my situation, I don't think he paid the price. I think he got the better end of the deal.
And it's so funny you say that because, you know, first of all, being incarcerated is terrible. And if you do the crime, unfortunately, you have to do some time, whatever it is, right? But the not all jails and correctional institutions are set up, but some of them do have. We can get a degree. You get out seven. If you do like I don't know, maintenance inside the jail, they give you 7 days off a month. So if you get a year, it takes 90 days off your sentence. I don't think that's really acceptable for me. I mean, if you're doing violent crimes, which domestic violence that puts you in jail is a violent crime. My thing is, they say that every man or woman that goes away for a violent crime with domestic violence, they say that when it's that serious, this is not their first rodeo. They've probably done dozens of times and never went to prison. So now that they're going away, then when they get pulled over, or if there's an incident again, or if someone runs their record and they're fighting and someone's banging the walls, they can look and say, okay, this guy's got a prior. But some of these domestic violence abusers, these perpetrators, are like serpents. They stay below the radar. And they really do. They jump from relationship to relationship, abusing woman or man, whatever the case may be, if it's a female or a woman, financially exploiting them, using their credit, buying cars, and they say, oh, I can't work, babe. And then sometimes these poor women with kids have to go out working while the man stays home. It's hellacious. And I'm not saying it's not the other way, but from what I see, unfortunately, I'm a man and I'm embarrassed, but at times when I hear these stories, but the majority of the calls that come in, it's a man, okay, doing the bad. It's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, hey, maybe we could put something into play where when they are in jail for X amount of time, they need to do some real like janitorial work, like hard work, and then that money that they earn goes to the victim.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And
Something.
one other thing I want to say is reflecting on men, because I've been beating them up pretty bad and I'm a man, but I'm trying to tell the truth. This is an epidemic. But a lot of men don't report domestic violence that's caused by their girlfriend or wife.
That's
And you
right.
want to know why, right? Because they're afraid they're going to get stuffed and cuffed, right? In addition, like I'm a big guy, so most women look at me and say, oh, you play football? What did you used to do? I said, I'm just a big guy. So so if I have a small wife or girlfriend and we get into it or something, she's hitting me, I'm like, stop, because if I get hit by a woman, it's like me getting hit by a fly, I'm just like, okay, I haven't been hit by a woman, but I'm saying playing around, somebody fools, it's nothing, right? But my thing is, if the cops come, there's two things that happens. And I want everyone to listen to me speaking on the show. They come, and depending on the police officer, usually if they call in, it's a man and woman, there'll be a woman cop and a male cop. So they separate both ears, they take you outside, one gets interviewed, and then they join together, the cops, talk, and like side talk as they're watching you. And then what happens if they decide that there was a domestic issue and there's children in the house, they may take you as both and arrest you. Now, what happens to your kids? They're going into foster care or DFACS, whatever institution they have within the state, right? So now you're going into court. Now, sometimes these things happen, and I'm not saying all families have domestic violence or lower income, but 76% on my data shows that the lower income people have a lot of domestic problems because of financial problems, drug and alcohol abuse, et cetera, et cetera. And what I'm saying is those people, unfortunately, will get taken and then they may get a hearing in a month. And now they've got rent and everything. I mean, sometimes they don't have no family to call, so they're stuck in jail. They can't get bail, so they got to go through the process, right? Now the children are taken from their parents, so what I'm trying to say to bring the awareness on this episode right here is simply this. Think before you act. And when you have children, think about the children first. Don't think about, like, I know guys and I know women that have put their tail between their legs and ignored the comments when people are playing head games, because coercive control has got to do with psychological abuse. And I call it head games, just doing things to get you egged on and get you to engage with the abuser. And I just tell all women out there and all men, try to ignore it. And if that's going on, you need to get help and maybe get out of the relationship as soon as possible. And I know it hurts with the kids and breaking the family up, but you'll end up doing jail time or something will happen and you're putting your risk of yourself in your significant other, and maybe one of you just needs some type of psychological evaluation or some psychotherapy, because from my ex relationship that I had, that I almost got killed, I had to go to PTSD, and I still go once a week. I used to go, I mean, once a month now. I used to go every week. It was bad. So all I'm saying is, you got to really live proactively when you're having issues in a relationship. Don't just keep picking up the welcome cop and sweeping it under, because eventually it's going to escalate. And next thing you know, the police are at the door and someone's taking away, if not both of you, with the kids. So
And thank you for saying that, especially for all the listeners to hear. You did mention something that provoked thought in me, and I wanted to just address that really quickly. So you were saying that 76% of the calls that are made, or the reports that are made, are coming from the poverty-driven
yeah,
community.
they're on welfare or food stamps. Maybe both of them, or I think actually 45%. I'm just looking. Hold on.
Well, no, I mean,
45%. Yeah. Yeah. 45% of them were one income, and the other rest are all both on disability. So
so
definitely lower
so
income.
So, do you think that maybe those families or those relationships that are not in that financial criteria, do you think that it happens less, or they just choose not to report it because there's more to lose?
It's the latter. It's the
Mhm.
second one. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, because we interviewed them, and um, we take a pretty good intake on them, and we don't write anything down because we move forward as coaches. I'm actually a licensed certified hypnotherapist, so I do a lot of hypno on them, and it helps them. But we refer them out to psychotherapists, which we have a couple of networks for free. They're great people. We love them. But I feel like when you coach with somebody, if you're a coach, I'm a certified coach. I've been coaching for 17 years. So I do a lot of coaching, and the coaching really helps because I open their minds up just to talk generally, right? That's what coaching, you're talking generally, you're kind of giving advice, but you're not telling them what to do because we're just coaches. But at the same time, I always accomplish in getting these couples to go to counseling when they don't want to go to counseling. You know how I do it? I combine the coaching with hypnotherapy, and I'm really good at hypnotherapy. I mean, people after I see that, like that, I've never done hypno. I don't want to do it. I said, can you just give me one shot? And guess what? I take a woman that's saying, no, I'm not going. I just want to divorce him. And I kind of evaluate myself as a coach and say, these two, I don't know if they're going to make it, but let me see if I can just get them to go to a psychotherapist. So at least somebody professionally says, these guys are like oil and vinegar. It's never going to work, or there's a chance. So, and I find 80, 90% of the people I do hypno on, they keep coming. The relationships get better. And sometimes the husband's like, I'm not doing that. I don't need to be hypnotized. After they see the wife change, and they're like, I want some of that. So then they lay down the table and I give. So it's good. Yeah. You're opening people's minds up to
Yeah.
change. If things are bad, you got to do something. Don't ignore what's going on. Don't sweep things underneath the carpet, because, again, you're just sweeping the inevitable underneath the carpet. Something bad's going to happen. If there's a reason why you're having problems, if it's financial, we can help you. Our foundation can help you. If you're going to be evicted, or if you got evicted, or if you bleed transmission, you can't go to work, and you take an Uber or a Lyft and it's too expensive, we can give you vouchers. There's so many things our foundation will do for them. We have prepaid cards, everything. So please reach out for us. It's 702-323-4477. We're in Las Vegas, 24/7 support. Again, 702-323-4477.
I love that you brought up the fact of that not all lower income are reporting, because in my situation, that was it. I'm a very independent woman. I've always worked
Exactly.
3+ jobs, and I had more to lose walking away than staying in the relationship. When I was getting punched, guess what? I healed from it, okay,
Terrible.
it went away. But to walk away from everything I've earned and everything, my house, my everything in the house, like everybody's like, oh, just leave, just leave. And then you call certain resources and shelters, and because you make too much money, they're not going to help you. So yeah, but it's
And,
just
and one, thank you for bringing that up, because I've been meaning to mention it on the show, and there's so much on my mind. because I'm really dedicated to this movement. But one thing I want to say to everyone listening to me, when you start experiencing problems in your home, when you don't know what's going on and you're getting nervous and the kids are like, Daddy, Mommy, the kids are starting to say, Mommy, what's going on? Whatever the case, if it's the dad that's getting abused, the mother, because I can't just focus on men, even though unfortunately that's the majority. But I have to focus because men do get abused in same-sex marriages very badly, vice versa. So my point is simply this. You need to put an escape plan in motion in your mind. I know you think this is crazy. What's he saying? You need to put an escape plan in motion if things are getting worse and you see it gradually getting worse. If it's a month, 2 weeks, if it's drastically changed, maybe you think he's doing drugs and alcohol, whatever it is, and you're getting dangerous, there's danger. You need to put a little money aside. You need to start calling your friends and get someone locally or call our foundation, no matter where you are in the United States, even overseas. If they have Uber or Lyft, we have vouchers. We just call, boom, you got a ride. So you'll be taken out of there. So that's, remember, 702-323-4477. And our WhatsApp is 702-470-8800. WhatsApp 702-470-8800. And with that being said, you have to put that plan together in your mind, and if you have to save a little money, hide it somewhere where he won't take it or where she won't take it, because sometimes he'll find your stash and take it or something. So just, you need to plan and live proactively, especially not just for yourself, but if you have children, because things escalate. And most women like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't plan. I didn't have any money. You need to do that. Even with no abuse going on, you should have, I always keep a little money on the side. It's just normal common sense. Just put a little pocket of money. So in case you get jammed up. And remember our phone numbers for Lyft or Uber. They're great. They help us out. 702-323-4477. Anywhere in the United States, we'll get you a lift out of your house and we will help you with the local police. And number two, if you need to do a global, some type of transportation, 702-470-8800 is our WhatsApp global. Okay,
All right, Sean, why don't you get into the next question?
sure. Okay, here we go. What challenges do survivors face when trying to access community support services? And how can these barriers be reduced or eliminated? Let me ask you that again, because that's a good one. What challenges do survivors face when trying to access community support services, and how can these barriers be reduced or eliminated?
Well, I will say that one of the biggest challenges is having time to do that, because where are you when you're not at home? Work, right? So
Exactly.
when you're at work and say that you're in that abusive relationship, work is the only place you have in order to access the computer or the phone or anything that's in a private like setting, because if you're at home, more than likely you're not going to be able to do that, right? So time where the company will either, let's back up. Is a victim or a survivor going to go to work and say, hey, I'm dealing with a domestic violence situation and I need you to give me time off, to paid time off, to go and take care of my situation? Not most likely, right? You're not going to go to work and tell your boss or HR that you're dealing with a situation under that domestic violence umbrella. And more than likely, the job doesn't have anything to provide you or offer support for, because that's just not what they do. Now, in the state of California, that has changed. There's a Senate bill that passed through legislation, SB 553, which is a workplace violence prevention plan that is required if you are open to the public, and if you have more than 10 employees total, and if you are not in healthcare or not law enforcement. So law enforcement and healthcare, they are excluded because they have their own domestic violence protocols. But if you are a small business to a large corporation open to the public, that is, responsible for reporting injuries to OSHA, Cal OSHA that is, you have to be compliant with this new law. And this new law went into effect July 1st of 2024, just this year. And there are a lot of companies that are not yet compliant. I actually happen to be a subject matter expert in that bill, and I do provide corporations my consulting to make sure that not only they're compliant to satisfy the regulatory requirements under the bill, but that they can pass any audit through Cal OSHA, and that the general staff is trained all the way up to senior leadership, which is considered the decision makers. So that is a great way on how those barriers can be put into place, or those gaps can be filled, because what I'm doing right now is I'm working right now with the insurance companies that offer workman's comp, because I want to know, how is this new bill impacting that industry? Because if we can come together to close these gaps, become like third party service providers, basically what I'm envisioning is like confronting domestic violence. Okay, the nonprofit can actually be a part of the employee benefits package. They have benefits for gamblers, porn addicts, alcoholics. Why not have them for domestic violence as well?
That's
Yeah,
great. That's a great point we just said. Wow, that's
amazing.
incredible.
So that's where California comes into play as one of the leading states under this umbrella of domestic violence, and having these legislative bills and programs into place to actually, fill the gaps, prevent the cycle of return, and to offer additional resources to victims that are in need right now. So it's really still, again, the issue of the social stigma being out there, the fear of opening up and communicating to your employer, and the employer knowing what to do and what resources to provide when it comes their way. So this awareness that we're here talking about today, this is the awareness that needs to be embedded across the board. Like we said in the beginning, right? When you're teaching sex ed, teach consent. When you're in high school,
Exactly.
and they're talking about teen dating violence, which is through the roof, by the way, this is something that should be reiterated again, because when you're sixth grade getting sex ed, you're like, it's not a big thing. You're not clear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As you're a teenager and you have all your hormones going all over the place, now you're like, oh wait, hold on a second, I remember something, but I need to be informed, right? And then when they go to college, and I have dealt with a lot of students that are in college, they get something like this little paragraph of domestic violence and a number to call the day of orientation, and that's upon registration and first entry. After that, there's no signs posted, there's no reiteration of that. And then now for the organizations, for companies. And just because California has this as a requirement now, I've done enough research. No other state has this requirement. However, it is a personal preference as it relates to the culture of any organization. If leadership wants to have this in place, then it'll be in place. It's a preference.
That was incredible what you just said, because you hit all the things I'm focusing on. I try to talk to as many grammar school kids that I can, and then high school kids, and as well as the college scene, because it's so crazy. I mean, especially in grammar school, some of these kids, I'm serious, they come with single parents, and it might be just the mom or the dad, because maybe the dad outlawed the mom and got the kids, whatever the case may be, right? And when I go there, and the questions they're asking me tells me where they're at. They're like on a 1 to 10, they're 0. Like, what does that mean? Like, I'm talking about 15, 16-year-old kids, and I don't know what to say to them. I have to answer it, but I'm caught off guard. So I tell them, you need to call, we have like 16, 17-year-old volunteers. We have 18, 19, we have 20, 25, 35 to 50, we have 70 to 80, because we have people that live in assisted living that are getting like black eyes, beaten. Some of them have been raped, and not even by the fellow residents, if you know what I mean. There's craziness what's going on in the country. I mean, domestic violence from the ages of 8 and 9 years old, even younger, unfortunately, babies, usually like 8 to 9 to like 99. I mean, a man called 6 months ago that was 99 years old. He was doing well. and he said that they threw him out of the wheelchair. It was an orderly, and we actually got it on video. We had his voice. We didn't get him to. We heard him screaming at him. You keep asking for water after midnight or anything, you're gonna end up, getting thrown. So he ended up getting arrested. We got him convicted. So I'm an investigator. I used to be at the federal law enforcement. So I'm not stupid. We pull tapes. I do investigations. And you know who called me? I'm not even a police officer. The police said, "Oh, we can't do anything." There was nothing. So I took it one step further. I started snooping around. I said, I need to get a subpoena. People don't understand. You get your own subpoenas. I don't know if you know that. As a civilian, you can go right in. If you have an open investigation, talk to detectives. You can pull. I think some of the states are starting to find out that they don't want that happening, but you can still pull subpoenas, especially if you're the relative of the victim. People don't know that. So when you call our foundation, again, 702-323-4477, you are getting a domestic violence 501c nonprofit organization, but you're also getting somebody that actually cares. Whatever's going on in your life, we care, we'll help you. You don't have to live abused. You don't have to live in a world of being afraid. You don't have to live in a world where I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't want to leave everything behind. This is not an excuse for you to stay in an abusive situation with children or with no children. Get out while you can before you end up being a statistic. Seriously.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. We're going to have a separate conversation because I really would like to pick your brain now. I know your background about this
Well,
math.
listen, listen. Everyone that gets on the show that's in our space, we collaborate. And one last thing I want to bring up is before the next question is we have DV Talks that I created. So DV Talks, and you're going to be on the show. Everyone is that comes on our show because you guys are all great. I so elated that you're on the show. It's so nice to have people that share my vision and the commonalities of how we know it's an epidemic and everyone's ignoring it. And if we don't do what we do, nothing changes. And exposing, some of the courts about some of these judges that don't enforce the restraining orders or give temporary restraining orders and don't renew them or what have you, or ignore the fact that the woman comes in with a broken arm and she's not getting a restraining order and the guy's got a history and a criminal record. It's hellacious. And I'm not really for putting people in jail. I'm not that guy. But if you're abusing a woman and you're hurting them and you're breaking body parts, you need to go to jail. You need to be arrested, at least bailed out, and put in a program, anger management, supervision, probation with jail time hanging over your head, and that'll wake you up real quick. If you just keep slapping on the wrist, more people are going to die, more rapes are going to happen because they're getting away with it. Women feel like, what is going on? I mean, that's why there's so many women that don't report rape because they're scared that the cops are going to say, it's going to be pretty hard to prove this. You waited too long. Why did you wait 6 hours? Why did you wait 4 hours? Maybe because that poor woman, was so devastated, she didn't know which way was up or down. She's just been raped. So our, foundation has a rape counselor crisis that we refer to. So if anybody calls, we've had to refer probably over the last year, probably 45 of them out to her. So she's separate from our foundation, but she's licensed psychotherapist, and her whole gig is rape crisis. So
All right. So we are running low on time and we still have 3 questions. So I'm going to move along.
you're up, Michelle.
All right. How can community members, neighbors, friends play a role in supporting survivors both during and after an abusive relationship?
Well, that's a very tricky question because if you're a neighbor and you hear the domestic violence taking place, whether you're sharing a wall or you're sharing the land or whatever, any type of neighbor, it's very unfortunate, and I'm going to be very raw and real right now. It is very hard to help someone who's in a situation if they do not want the help. You have to wait until they say, I am in need, I am seeking, I want help. Now, even then, it can be very tricky when you are that close of a person to the abuser because as law enforcement, the riskiest call to respond to is those of domestic violence. Okay, so if you are just a neighbor and a person who wants to love and share the love and give the support, you have to be careful. You have to be
Yeah.
really careful because you may become a target next. So,
Yep.
my recommendation, personal opinion, is that you wait until you know that the person wants the help.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's really
Great answer.
a great answer, and like it's almost like you're in my head, seriously, because being former law enforcement, like I was in a different world in the federal world, but I did deal with domestic violence and human trafficking stuff. But my brothers are all regular cops, and they tell me about like when they go to domestic violence, they literally take the lock off the gun because they don't know if it's a hostage situation. Because usually the husband's yelling, "You call the police, you know what's going to happen," and it's on dispatch and it's playing to the police officer en route in his cruiser. He's like, "We got a crazy situation. They'll always send backup," but it's so true. Domestic violence is escalating, and you got to look at the country. We've had terrible inflation. People in low income are struggling. They have children, you know what I mean? They're struggling, and it's sad. And the federal government has to step up and provide more resources straight up. Not that they're not trying to do their best, but I'm saying there needs to be more awareness across the nation to set precedents for globally, because everything we do in America, people watch globally, as you know, right? So if we come out with campaigns like my Hulu partners, I'm so happy about that. But I want to do more. I want to have, DV Talks, which is going to be, like I said, that I was talking about, that's like a TEDx platform for domestic violence victims and their families to come up. And if you're a victim, you can come and talk because you're still alive. But there's family members that have lost loved ones, and they can come up and talk. They get up for 20 minutes, and then we have 10 minutes for questions and answers, Q&A. And it's going to be a great show. It's going to be recorded, and it's going to be just great.
Well, and here's the thing, Sean, something that you said earlier too, court wise, when there's a couple that goes to court to talk about a restraining order, temporary, permanent, whatever, if there's no kids involved, most of the time the judge will grant that restraining order and say no contact, zero, that's it. But at the moment there's a child involved, figure it out.
It's
Yeah.
madness.
It's
Madness.
madness.
Yeah.
It's madness.
Okay, let me get to the next question.
Mhm.
Number 4. Okay. What role do public policies and government initiatives play in any strengthening community-based support for survivors of domestic violence? I'm going to reiterate and re-ask and redirect here. Replay it. What role the public policies and government initiatives play in strengthening community-based support for survivors of domestic violence? This is a great question.
Yeah, and I'll give you, I hope, a great answer because I'm going to use California as once
Great.
again a
California's a
showcase.
great state. I mean, great.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
going to
it's
showcase
got a lot
it.
going for it.
I actually
I might move there.
volunteered.
I might move there now.
Okay. Oh, Michelle's like,
We're low on time.
okay.
Sorry.
So I've been volunteering under Cal legislation for about 10, 15 years. And what we do is we focus solely on public safety and privacy. And I can tell you that one of the great roles that public policy enforces and government policies enforce for survivors is one of them, I will state, is when you go to court, okay, and whether it's for a current situation, a future situation, whatever. If you are a survivor and you are a participant of a confidential address program that keeps you, confidential and off the radar for safety purposes, everybody knows that once you file something in court, it becomes public record unless you pay or hire an attorney to have it suppressed. Well, we have a bill that has been passed, and when you go to court as a survivor, it is a cover page that goes on top of what you're filing, so it is automatically suppressed. So your
Wow.
safety is then granted again. You don't have to worry about it being jeopardized.
That's
That is a
awesome.
huge gap.
It's awesome.
Other states need to follow
That
California.
They
other
That's
really
states,
do.
yeah,
like,
They
because
really do.
Absolutely, because if you move for safety and you are in a place where your offender does not know where you are, the moment that you file, say it's just a tenant landlord or small claims or just something that you were wronged and you need to go to court, that bill right there, that cover sheet that goes on the file, on the motion that you're filing in the court system, automatically keeps your information confidential and off of public record. So that right there
Great.
is a huge gap that's been filled.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. It means so much. Like, it's so amazing when we have different people like you, just great guests that tell us so much that, we share our experiences and kind of resources. It just really magnifies what we're trying to do as advocates and activists.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to get into the last question. We
Great.
have about 2 minutes to get this answer in and out, and we'll be closing the show out. So, how can the collaboration between local organizations, law enforcement, and healthcare providers be improved to ensure comprehensive support for survivors?
Okay, great. So there is a nonprofit organization called InfraGuard, and InfraGuard, I believe there's 82 across the United States. Sean, I would hope that you are familiar with that because you
I
fit
am.
the criteria very
I
well.
think there's more than that, actually, probably like 90, but maybe you say 80. I thought there was 90. But
Okay, yeah, I'm an active member myself because of my background in other areas that we didn't discuss tonight. But anyways, they for the one that's in Southern California, they have what's called a LECC, which is Law Enforcement Communication Center. So anyone, general public or not, can be an anonymous caller, can tip off anything. So basically, see something, say something, and then that local communication center can then they also have a community of resources and referrals that they can offer as assistance as well. And for us who are nonprofit organizations, whatever the federal or local government is not funding, that's where we as 501c3s fill those gaps. So if we can all just stay collaborating and collectively communicating and developing these communication centers, I believe that we can make this nation a safer place quicker because we're communicating more effectively. And I will use Hurricane Katrina, as a beautiful comparison.
great. And again, I'm a survivor of domestic violence foundation has a tip line. It's a 702-323-4477 as well.
All right. Well, that wraps our show today. I'm sure we could go on for a long
Forever.
time. You have a
It's not
very
going to end here. It's not going to end here.
knowledgeable. We loved it. We'll definitely have you back. Just let our audience know where they can find your organization, where to follow you, how to get a hold of you.
Thank you. Yes, all of that is confrontingdomesticviolence.org. confrontingdv.org, both the same website. Confronting domestic violence, confronting DV, and like Sean said earlier, you cannot conquer what you do not confront. So do not sweep it under the rug because you're just creating a crinkle that you're going to trip over anyways. So make sure that you know you and that you seek help when you know you need it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of I'm a Survivor of Domestic Violence, Inc. We hope you now have a deeper understanding of the essential role community support systems play in the healing process. If you're a survivor, or if you know someone who is, please remember that help is available and it's never too late to reach out.
Absolutely, Michelle. If you're listening today and feel you need support, check the show notes for resources in your area. Whether it's finding shelter, counseling, or just someone to talk to, there are organizations out there ready to help. Don't hesitate to get involved or spread the word so more people can benefit from these incredible support networks.
Your voice matters, your journey matters, and you deserve to heal. Thank you for being part of this important conversation. We'll see you next time.
Take care, stay strong, and remember, you're never alone.